For this list, we are referring to films which are fictional, so no films that are actually based on the life of a serial killer. Number 5. Ivan Milat. Ivan Milat inspired the 2005 film Wolf Creek. The film's plot surrounds 3 backpackers who become stranded in a remote part of Australia and then fall prey to a murderous bushman who offers to fix their car and then takes them captive. The movie was based on the horrible acts that Ivan Milat committed. Ivan Milat was an Australian serial killer. He was also known as the backpacker murderer. He is responsible for the murders of 7+ people. His span of killings lasted 4 years, spanning from 1989 to 1993. His victims' corpses were found in a Belanglo State Forest in New South Wales, Australia. He really enjoyed torturing backpackers. He stabbed many of his victims at the base of the spine so that they were paralysed and were unable to flee. One of his victims had been found with 35 stab wounds on his body. Another had been found with 10 gunshots to the head, and another was found with no head at all. A campsite was discovered close to where his victims' bodies were found. It's believed that he kept the victims there and interacted with them before killing them. He was eventually caught after a victim who he tried to attack escaped and went to the police. The victim then identified him in a lineup. Milat was given 7 life sentences plus 18 years without parole. If you want more details about Ivan Milat, then we've got another video which goes in depth about the case, so just click on the screen or click on the link in the description. Number 4. Sawney Bean. Sawney Bean inspired the Hills of Eyes films. The film's plot is about a family who are on their way to California. Their car then breaks down in a desolate area. It then becomes apparent that they are not alone. Among them are an inbred mutated family of violent savages ready to attack. The movie was inspired by Sawney Bean and his family. Sawney Bean was a serial killer and cannibal who lived in Scotland during the 15th century. Sawney and his wife fled to a cave where they started a family. They had 8 sons and 6 daughters. They forced the children to have sex with each other, and he ended up with 18 grandsons and 16 granddaughters, which were all a product of incest. They all lived in the cave. At night, members of the family would go out and ambush people. They would rob them and murder them, then bring them back to the cave, and the victims' bodies would then be dismembered and eaten. Discarded body parts would sometimes wash up on nearby beaches. The local villagers became aware of the disappearances, but didn't know who was responsible for them. The Bean family was so secretive that the villagers didn't even know they existed. The villagers then sent out search parties every night. The family were finally caught after one of their victims escaped. The King of Scotland sent a mob of 400 men to search for the family. They came across their cave and searched it. Within the cave were several human remains. The family was then captured and was chained up and taken to jail. They were then executed for the mass murder and cannibalization of over 1,000 people. The men had their genitals cut off and had their hands and feet severed and were left to bleed to death. The women and children were forced to watch the men die and then were burned alive. Number 3. Danny Rowling. Danny Rowling inspired the movie Scream. Scream's plot is about a group of teenagers who is hunted by a masked serial killer who tests their knowledge of horror movies. The film was inspired by serial killer Danny Rowling, otherwise known as the Gainesville Ripper. In 1990, he murdered 5 students during a robbery spree in Gainesville, Florida. It all started on August 24, 1990, when he broke into the apartment of Sonia Larson and Christina Powell. He went to the upper portion of the house and taped Sonia's mouth shut and then stabbed her to death. He then made his way back downstairs and taped Christina's mouth shut and then taped her wrists behind her back and cut her clothes off. He then began to rape her. He then forced her face down onto the floor and stabbed her in the back 5 times. The day after this, he broke into the apartment of Krista Hoyt. He waited for her to get home and then took her by surprise and put her in a chokehold. After she had passed out, he dragged her into the bedroom and then taped her hands behind her back. He then raped her and stabbed her in the back. He then decapitated her and placed her head so it was looking at her body. Then, 2 days later, he broke into the apartment of Tracy Pauless and Manny Taboda. Danny found Manny asleep in the bedroom. Manny had woken up, and after a struggle, Danny eventually killed him. Tracy heard the struggle and went to investigate. She saw Danny and began to run away. She barricaded herself in her bedroom, but Danny managed to get through. He taped her mouth and wrists, then cut off her clothes and raped her, and then murdered her. He was eventually caught later on in 1990 when he was arrested for burglary. During the investigation, tools that police had found at his house were matched to marks that was left at the victim's properties. Police also found several recordings of him singing country songs and audio diaries about the crimes that he had committed. They also found writings which later on linked him to the murder of 3 other people. During his trial, he said that he murdered the people as he wanted to become a superstar and wanted to be famous, much like the killers Billy and Stu in Scream, who done it to become famous and gain revenge. He pled guilty to all of the murders and was sentenced to the death penalty. He was executed by lethal injection on October 25th, 2006. Number 2. Dr. Alfredo Trevino. Dr. Alfredo Trevino inspired Hannibal Lecter's character in The Silence of the Lambs. The plot of The Silence of the Lambs follows a young FBI cadet who must confide in an incarcerated killer to receive his help on catching another serial killer who skins his victims. Hannibal Lecter, who was portrayed in the film as a serial killer who is notorious for his habits of consuming his victims, was based on a real person called Dr. Alfredo Trevino. Thomas Harris, who was the author of the novel that the film was based on, revealed that while he was in Mexico working on the story, he visited a prison, and this is where he met the doctor. While interviewing him, he found out that the doctor killed his boyfriend after his boyfriend threatened to leave him. The doctor used a sedative to sedate him and then injected him with several other drugs. He then dragged his body into a bathtub and slit his throat with a scalpel and drained the blood from his body. He then sliced up his body into tiny pieces and stuffed the parts into a box. It's also believed that he killed several hitchhikers and dismembered their bodies. Number 1. Ed Gein. Ed Gein has inspired characters such as Leatherface in A Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Norman Bates in Psycho, and Buffalo Bill in The Silence of the Lambs. Ed Gein confessed to only murdering 2 women, but he may have murdered many more. Ed was known as a quiet and awkward person. During his childhood, he was isolated from the world. His mother would only ever let him leave the house to go to school. His mother moved them to an isolated part of Wisconsin so her son wouldn't have to interact with others. If he ever tried to make friends at school, his mother would punish him. She would often preach to Ed and tell him how evil the world was, and told him all women except for her were prostitutes and were instruments of the devil. She would read a section of the Bible to him every afternoon. She would mainly pick verses containing death and murder. He remained isolated during his teens. He once went to extinguish a fire with his brother, which had broke out close to his house. He said he lost sight of his brother, so called the police. Police found his brother dead, but in strange circumstances. There was no visible burns on him or around the area that he was in, and bruising was found on the back of his head. Police didn't believe that foul play was involved, but it is now believed that he may have killed his brother. He then lived with his mother until she died. After she died, he continued to live in the house and would frequently dress in her clothing. His property was searched on November 16, 1957, after he was linked to the disappearance of a store owner called Bernice Warden. While searching his property, police found Bernice's decapitated body in a shed. She was hung upside down by ropes. Within the house, police also found human bones, baskets made of human skin, chairs covered in human skin, skulls on his bedposts, skulls with the top sawn off, bowls made from human skulls, a corset made from a torso, leggings made from leg skin, masks made from female faces, 9 vulvas, several women's dresses, a belt made from human nipples, 4 pairs of lips, and a lampshade made of the skin of a human face, and several fingernails. Ed said that he got most of the body parts from grave robbing, but some came from his 2 victims, Mary Hogan and Bernice Warden. He told police that soon after his mother had died, he began to make a women's skin suit so he could become his mother and literally crawl into her skin. During his trial, he was tried for first-degree murder, but pled not guilty by reason of insanity. He spent the rest of his life in different mental hospitals. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, then give it a big thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to keep updated with our videos. Goodbye.